Hi, this is Adriana, and I just want to share a piece of this conference that was held in Maui in 2011, but could not have been more relevant to our times. Please enjoy.
What do you say to, I mean, I get this a lot, I'm sure you do as well, to all the bad things that are happening to good people. I mean, the accidents, the illnesses, the economy. I mean, all of the things that people are so filled with fear, which to me is creating an awful lot of unnecessary illness in our society.
Yes, a big challenge is coming. Some challenges come on an individual level, and sometimes in certain time periods there are large numbers of people who are facing similar challenges in a country or a group of countries, and life is not even meant to be free of challenges. The challenges have a purpose. Many of them, of course, are produced by the egoic consciousness, but if you look at it from a highest perspective, even the egoic consciousness that produces the suffering and the dysfunction on the planet, collectively and in individual lives, even that ultimately has its place in the transition to a higher state of consciousness, because eventually the ego creates so much suffering and challenges that it self-destructs, it awakens you because you can't stand the suffering anymore. That's happened to me.
So much of the suffering, though, seems to be around this whole thing about greed and money and the economy and the dysfunction that our world seems to be in at this time. But there seems to be almost like...
Yes. It's a crisis, moving towards a crisis point.
Right.
And I believe that's connected with the awakening of consciousness, because it's only through when the crisis is reached that a new level can be attained. I think that probably applies to every species, even on lower levels of development. For example, I believe there's some biologists who say that also, when they say that life started in the sea and at some point it moved onto land. I don't think any fish would voluntarily jump onto land and start crawling. It's just too hard. But if a fish if there's a huge area of water that suddenly shrinks over a long period of time, suddenly the fish is forced to move out onto land. And then at some other point, an animal is forced to develop wings and fly because a crisis has been reached. And then a leap happens to a different level of consciousness. In humans, it's consciousness. And that's where we are now, where the egoic consciousness is becoming more and more dysfunctional. Or compared to a caterpillar who is approaching the end of its lifespan as a caterpillar, when the crawling gets more and more difficult. Before it was okay, the caterpillar was a caterpillar, but now it's reaching the end of its lifespan and says, oh, I can't move anymore, this is terrible. But yes, because you're destined to come to an end, to metamorphose, into the butterfly. And so again, the egoic consciousness creates more and more havoc on the planet.
What about individually, though? I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about myself and what kinds of growth things that have taken place for me, and how quickly. I mean, I think we can speed up this evolutionary thing, especially within our own selves. I mean, for me, I can go to very specific moments in my life as I look back at them now from this age that I am now. I can look back to an event that happened in 1974 when I was sent to my father's grave. My father had walked out on us, abandoned us, put me in a series of foster homes and orphanages and so on up until I was 10 years of age. I grew up with rage inside, anger, just bitterness and so on. And through a series of just unbelievably mystical, impossible to explain circumstances, I ended up at my father's grave. I didn't even know he was dead, and was sent there. And in one afternoon, it's the 27th of August in 1974, my whole life was transformed. And all I did was stand there on his grave. I had gone there to his grave to do something else on his grave, because I was just so filled. And every night I would dream about it. I would be filled with rage and so on. And when I got to his grave, something came over me. It was overwhelming. We've just done a film on this called My Greatest Teacher. Hay House has put it out soon. But it was like, and I was told to go back and to forgive. And I just sat on his grave and I sobbed and sobbed. And I remember saying out loud, and I knew that something very magical, mysterious, mystical that I couldn't put my finger on was happening to me. And I said to this man I had never seen in my life, except for when I was just an infant, from this moment on, I send you love. I forgive you, I let go, and Mark Twain said that, that when you forgive someone, you know, the forgiveness, he said, is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. And if you can send fragrance out from that rage and from that anger, and I walked away from that experience, I'll never forget it. I went back to New York, I was teaching at a university, I rented a car, went down to Florida, and I wrote a book called Your Erroneous Zones in 14 days. By hand, beginning to end. And today it's got like 55 million copies in 47 languages around the world. And my whole life, when I just practiced forgiveness. This thing with John of God, with this leukemia, when I first got it, I thought, I don't do cancer. You know, I help other people who have cancer. And it's been life transforming. And it happened, it's like it's the process, maybe it's because I'm getting older or whatever, just speed it up. And I went from much more ego to just pure love to everyone and everything I encounter. And my children will tell you, the people that are close to me in life will tell you that they say, my father has changed. He just loves everyone and everything and doesn't know how not to do that. And that happened, and I just wonder, what's going to happen this afternoon? I mean, it's like, how fast, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, I think we can, if we shifted even Christianity, if we shifted it off of, I am the crucifixion, and all of the suffering, all of the things that are wrong, and all of the pain, and all of the images of that, to what Jesus really said, which is, I am, meaning God, the resurrection. I am the resurrected being. I think we can all resurrect ourselves in a huge way.
But the crucifixion actually points to because resurrection arises out of the crucifixion. So crucifixion is the seemingly dreadful thing that happens to a human being. It was, in your case, being abandoned as a child, being put in foster homes, or the illness now, the seemingly dreadful thing that actually grace is hiding there. The moment you come to a place of acceptance, as you did with the forgiveness, and as you did again with the illness, then the grace, and that's the resurrection. The crucifixion is the abandonment, the crucifixion is the illness, and the surrender, and then the peace that comes, and the connectedness with the source that comes then, that's the grace that is hiding there in every moment when dreadful things seem to happen.
Yeah, that's what I wanted you to address. Thank you.
Thank you.